AI just came out. People are asking themselves, what can I solve with AI? I don't think that's the way you should go about it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Back of the Envelope. This is a really big episode for us because I realize that not many of you have been here for the past year, but yes, this is the 1 year anniversary of this podcast. Originally called Teen Finance, somewhat recently switched to Back of the Envelope, but yeah, I mean, big moment for Maseo and I. This is
Yeah.
an idea that was slowly crafted over, or not slowly crafted. It was rather quickly crafted over a couple of gym sessions, pitched back
Yeah.
and forth, and then we just got into it. Um, yeah, I congratulations to us, I guess, for sticking with it for a year. So,
Big round of applause.
kind of fitting. Last episode, thank you guys all for the support. If there are any new viewers here from the last episode that we did on management consulting and investment banking, welcome. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for all the great feedback and everything. Today, we are going to be doing the first episode of a new mini series, which is going to be all about starting your first business. So we realize that a lot of people who listen to this podcast, if not the vast majority, are really into business and everything. And one of the most rewarding and educating business experiences can be starting one of your own. So that's what we're going to be doing. And this first episode, we're going to talk about all of the early steps. So evaluating whether starting a business is the right move for you, and then evaluating your business ideas and seeing if they're actually going to be successful. So a little bit of background for those who don't know. Maseo and I both have a bit of experience with small businesses and startups. My first one was, or still is, I still run it, Sam Crane Media. So I do local, I do media, so photography, videography for local businesses, events, sports, weddings, anything like that. But more recently, or I guess after that, there was a short-lived startup that never really made it out of like early seed stage, but definitely got some experience with that. That was in the fintech area, and then more recently working on my company Chimp Typhoon. That's definitely my biggest focus now. We are a app developer in B2B dev shop, and then also working on a nonprofit that's doing we were providing CS education to underprivileged students in Venezuela. So throughout all of that, I've gotten a bit of experience, and Maseo also. What have you done?
Yeah. Well, my list isn't that long, but I think first as it stands for both of us is the podcast.
Oh, totally. I forgot that
Been
one.
rocking with this for a year now. We've put in, a fair amount of time. But beyond that, my other stuff. I mean, I've had a few startups like through middle school. Also done with Sam, like did some theme pages, tried to become a media company.
Oh yeah.
Sam stuck with it more than me. I've been an intern at a startup for half a year now, and I'm starting another company now called Carology. I'll announce it here. Carology Auto Spa.
Yeah, there you
a car
go.
detailing service for service in the Santa Cruz area. So,
Hey, if anyone remembers Carology from the older episodes, you're a real one. But not exactly what the Carology idea was, but Maceo's taking the name. I'm betting on Carology becoming huge. So a big part of the series will be Maseo will be following our own advice as closely as he can and executing it in this new business that he's building along the way. So it'll be like a tutorial that we also follow real time. So you'll be able to get if you just want to follow along on the journey, there'll be real real life example to be able to look
yeah,
at.
exactly.
So yeah.
And if our advice sucks, my company will fail, and
Exactly.
if it doesn't, then I will prosper. I mean, I feel like this is the best test to kind of show what will happen if you follow this, right?
Yeah. All right. We're ready to jump into it. So, like I said, in this first episode, we're really going to be going through the early stages. So, evaluating whether or not you're the type of person who should start a business, and if your idea is one worth exploring. So, without further ado, Maseo, what do you think is the ideal type of person who should go and start their own business?
It needs to be a person who's they need to be driven.
Yes,
They need to be like
absolutely.
business minded. They need to like fully be able to commit to something.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things about even starting a business. You could, I mean, like not be I, like okay, I lost my train of thought here. But you cannot be very entrepreneurial. But as long as you can stick to it, you'll still be able to build something up over time. You definitely need to like be a person who can take initiative too. Like
Yes.
you need to just like kind of get in there and go with your thing, and be like a proper leader as well.
Yeah. I think one of the things you said like resilience, right? I think being able to
Yeah,
just keep going is huge, and being able to, yeah, I guess the order to say it in would be one, to take initiative. So being
yeah,
able to do that, and then having resilience to stick with it. I think those are the two most important things when it comes to starting a business. I like what you said. You don't need to be the most business minded. That can be learned, but these certain intrinsic traits I think are very, very important. And I mean, I think they can be learned too. I think it's something that you could get better at when you're running your
yeah. They
first
can.
business. But you really, at the end of the day, you want to be someone who can stick with things and doesn't need to be told to do stuff, because when you're running your own business, your boss is you. You don't have
Yeah,
anyone laying out the roadmap of what to do in front of you. It's all on you being able to be the type of person who can find the next move, find something that needs to be done, and execute on it. So, and one more I want to throw on there for the type of person that should start a business is it helps to have a little bit of confidence in yourself and in the way that you display yourself to others, especially if you're working in something like if you're running a small business, for example, something that's service based. Anytime you're interacting with customers, having a little bit of that confidence is going to go a long way. um, I don't think anyone who isn't confident is even thinking about starting a business. I think if you're listening to this episode and interested in starting your business, you obviously have a little bit of confidence inside of you to even a have a little bit of hope that you can execute on this. So
yeah,
good on you for being here, I guess. Um, all right, so moving into the next thing, why should someone want to start a business, a small business or a startup? So I think I was originally going to say that you shouldn't start one just for the sake of doing so. However, I think that if your goal is to gain experience, I don't necessarily think that's the end of the world. And if you really want to start a business, I think it's fine to actively think about ideas. Um, but like to think about like creating an idea, that's what we do on this podcast, and I think
yeah.
we've
That's
come
that's
up
why
with
we're here.
some pretty decent ideas over this past year. But really, you're going to do better if the idea comes to you first and then the thought of turning it into a business comes after. So I'm say I've seen our lighting change completely because the sun's going down.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
gotten
It's
so
because
much
the sun
darker.
is like slowly setting. We have like
um
10 minutes before we're in darkness.
yeah. So really, you if when you're why you should start a business, you should have either a new revelation with an idea or an important skill set that is uniquely suited to solving a certain problem. Anything you want to add on, Maseo?
Yeah, just like to add on to your first point, like you're saying, you shouldn't just start one just for like the sake of doing so,
Mhm.
or you kind of said against that. But like, I agree with what you were saying. I think you have to be doing it for the right reasons, though. Like, you
Mhm.
shouldn't just be doing it because you feel maybe pressured into doing it,
Yeah.
or like like you have to do something that you have to like truly want to.
So speaking from experience, I think maybe I don't know 2 3 years ago when I was first getting into this whole business thing, I'm like, dude, I need to start a business. I need to be like running a business. That's like my whole dream is just to have some sort of business that I can run. And the thing I'll say to that is just let it cook. Okay, it sounds
Yeah, it's so
you
true.
like at least for both of us. This is extremely anecdotal evidence, but it just came to us naturally. We chilled, we focused on our school and stuff. And if you have that early entrepreneurial mind, thinking that you want to start something of your own, the ideas will come to you eventually. Let it cook. Don't worry about it. You will get an idea that you want to run with. For me, it was so natural moving into high school, and I made one video for the football team. And then after that, the idea of, oh, I should turn this into my first small business. It happened like that. Um, it will come to you naturally. Let it cook. So that's what I would say.
I agree.
All right, we've talked about this. We've mentioned this just in the past couple minutes, but a small business versus a startup, what's the difference? Maseo, what is the difference between a small business and a startup?
Okay, so a small business would most likely be something that is doing like a service, you know. Like an example that would be carology, which
Yeah.
is car detailing, which that's a service based industry, you know. And an example of a startup would most likely be something selling a product, right? Like example of Chim Typhoon would be the an app, right? You're selling an app or
Yes.
some in-app purchase. That'd be example of a startup.
Yeah. So that's a broad but very good rule.
Very broad.
It's broad. There can be startups that kind of mesh with that service idea, and it's definitely small businesses that you know go. There's a small businesses selling products is totally a thing. I'd say it's even more small businesses can do products or services. Startups may
That's
really
true.
only do
Yeah.
products, because when you think about it, startups you're it's an early stage business that's betting that it's going to grow a lot, where it's a unicorn.
Yeah.
It's you're buying a ticket on the rocket ship. You can't It's hard to scale a service based business. Like with Sam Crane Media, I am Sam Crane. Sam Crane can only make so many videos in a day. It's hard to
Yeah.
scale that to a certain past a certain point. Sure, you can like hire out people, but you don't have that explosive growth potential that you do with something like selling a product. So with a startup, selling a software product, also more explosive growth. Obviously, startups can exist in the hardware space too, Apple, anything like that. But especially if you're selling a software product, your growth potential and therefore your categorization into that startup space is a lot higher. So the startups I'm running, Maseo said, Chimp Typhoon, and then also I have like past experience that I'll talk about later. So um, what it's like running both, I think figuring out which space that you want to break into and what it's going to be like in each space is important. So small business, I think everyone should try starting at least once. It is such a valuable experience, and if you don't like it, you can shut it down. But as a small business owner, you will be more involved with your customers. I think that's fair to say, right? Because
Yeah,
at least for
definitely.
me, like I'm interacting with my clients every time we're working on a project, texting back and forth, things like that. Um, I think startups and small businesses, you're both of them, you're very heavily involved in. Um, but from my personal experience, the startup, you kind of you live and breathe it a little bit more, just because oftentimes maybe it's a little bit more of an exciting idea, and then the small business you can kind of like separate your work from your life, but again you'll be having those customer interactions a lot. But as a startup owner, um, it will quickly become your life. If it should, if it doesn't, then you probably don't like it enough. But yeah, that's what I can say. What about you, Maseo?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree, right? It just has to be something that
Dude,
you
your room
can
got so dark.
stick with.
You look like you're
I
in a
know
little
it's so dark.
cave.
I need to turn the light on. But yeah, I agree. It just has to be something that you like, right? And that you can actually like commit to and
Yeah,
spend your time doing. And if it's not any of those things, it's just not gonna work. I think, just simply put, that's just kind of how it is.
yeah. But yeah, again, as a small business owner, you're gonna be dealing with people a lot. The work is more like you're providing the service at the end of the day, or you're
Yeah,
hiring people to do so. So, um, it's both of them. Yeah, again, the small business is going to be more community based. If you're really into your community, that's a great way to get involved. The startup a little bit more, a bigger scope, and I think they can both be exciting in their own ways, but definitely the small business is a little bit more tame, and that's like totally like that's totally
whoa.
that's totally fine. Some people like to have a more chill, laid back work environment compared to something that's high growth like a startup. With that being said, hold on. Alexa, turn on lamp. Is that better?
Wow.
Is that better? Or is it
Yeah, I mean, there's not as many shadows anymore.
okay? Cool.
I think better.
So, finding an idea that's going to work. Not all ideas are good ideas. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. But and there are rules that you can use, questions that you can ask yourself to figure out if your idea is a good one, or probably a good one, or a bad one. So I think the first thing you need to ask yourself is your business, is your product or service solving a real problem? So this means that what you're providing, your whole business model, the product, the service, anything like that, it should be problem driven, not solution driven. So let's talk about an example of a really bad startup idea. I'm going to call out some, actually, like a couple of the bigger bubbles. But let's think of, Maseo, what are like the new technologies that have been popping up recently?
I mean, the biggest one's probably like AI,
Yeah.
right? I don't know what else. Um,
Think a year back.
Year back,
Yeah.
crypto,
There you go.
NFTs, all
Okay.
that good stuff.
In these past couple of years, we've lived through all of these new technologies come out. When crypto first came out, I was actually part of a early stage fintech startup. And what it was going to do was provide microloans to countries in Latin America via crypto, and then you could get them the money faster or something. I say or something because this idea was shaky at its core.
Right.
The whole thing was that crypto just came out, and I had some friends that really wanted to start a crypto company, and they saw, this new technology came out. What can I solve with crypto? And that's where the problem lies. Same thing with AI. AI just came out. People are asking themselves, what can I solve with AI? I don't think that's the way you should go about it. You should be looking for a solution and saying, how can I solve the solution? And if AI comes up, that's great. And those are going to be the successful AI companies. But it shouldn't be the other way around, because that's where you get like people adding like AI buzzwords to, everything, in businesses that could be run, products that could exist on a simpler scale without these new things. So really, you're looking for the problem first, the solution after. Be careful of those solutions in search of a problem.
Totally.
So yeah, Maseo, any thoughts on that?
I mean, that makes total sense, right? Like, there's a saying, like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Or if it
Yeah,
ain't broke,
exactly.
don't fix it. That fully applies. Like, there's no point of really just like dumping out a product that's not really gonna solve a problem.
Yeah.
And you're creating a problem just to solve it. And there's no point in that. There's no
You
value.
can do that once you're an existing monopoly like Apple or something. That's when you
exactly.
can create your problem and solve it. But before that, it's not going to work.
Like with the headphone jack on an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
they took it away and they started selling adapters.
Yeah. So, how big should these problems be? You're not trying to you're not saying, world poverty, I'm gonna go solve that. Obviously, that's a little bit too big of a scale. You're looking for these niche problems that you can see have a straightforward solution that you see and maybe other people don't. So I'm actually not going to use this startup I'm currently working on, because I'm gonna save that to reveal to everyone. But yeah, our problem, it's a relatively simple problem that we have all experienced, and the product that's going to fix it is something that we would use, because we think that it's it's like a simple, straightforward solution to the problem. So other things this could be like, let's think. Let's think of like some existing businesses just off the cuff. Or like Maseo. Let's talk about carology. I think you
Yeah,
said auto
right.
spa,
So
so it's obviously not a secret what you're going to do. People have dirty cars, and or dirty luxury cars, and don't have time or can't find a good someone good to clean them. You know, someone who's going to clean it with
yeah,
care. That's where Carology Auto Spa comes in. They're going to be the go-to detailing auto spa service for luxury car owners. So there you go. That's a solution, a problem driven product right there. I almost said solution driven product. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus
they're
like
trying
that,
to
man.
disrespect me. I was like, whoa, whoa.
All right. So, another thing, when you're looking for an idea that has either worked for a lot of people. All right. So for a small business, this is what you're looking for, because small businesses, you don't really need to worry too much about like global competition. Like the ideas can be redone because
Yeah,
obviously geography exists. You know, one person isn't going to dominate the whole thing because, again, the scalability problems. So detailing services have worked forever. It's a
exactly.
proven business
Everywhere in the
model.
world. Yeah,
And Maseo is going to start a business that does it here where we live in California. Um, and then for a startup, you're looking for an idea that no one or very few people have thought of. So I say no one with caution, because ideas that no one has executed on, the reason no one has executed on it, or I don't even know, I can't even speak, is either because, one, it's just such an amazing idea that no one has thought of and you've gotten extremely lucky, or it's like a hard problem to solve, or you are uniquely cut out to solve the problem, or the other one is that the idea just sucks and that's the reason no one has done it, is
it's
because
very
it's lame.
possible.
Be careful of the no one is doing this ideas, because the reason no one is doing it, I mean, think about it. There are 8 billion people ish living in this world. You have to think about what are the chances that no one has thought about this, and is that the reason why you just have to look for those reasons why no one is doing it. And oftentimes it's because the idea sucks. Um, very few can be good. Having some competition isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if there are people already existing in the space, that means that you know there's a way that you can succeed. Other people have thought of this. Other people think it's a good idea, which probably means that there are people that would buy the product or the service. So when you should start up in that space is you see that the existing companies aren't doing it well, and you think you could do it better because you have some unique insight or advantage that you could use, or a new technology has just come out that is going to change the space, and this is a unique time to jump in. um Maseo, does that sound good, right? Like,
Sounds solid. Makes sense, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
yes, I don't know how to elaborate on that, but it makes sense.
dumb ideas might be dumb because, or ideas no one are doing might not be done because they are dumb. um, all right. Um, so what ideas do you not want to explore? So an idea that has worked for no one. Again, that kind of goes with like the, if no one has done it, it might have just not worked for anyone. But like a
Yeah.
small business idea that has like worked for no one. What's an example? Like a, I don't know.
Uh,
It's kind of impossible to think of ideas that don't
it's
work
hard. Well, because like you're
for
not going to hear about them, right?
exactly.
You
Exactly.
have to know someone
Yeah.
who had that situation. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't.
Um selling mud cakes, going and getting dirt and mixing it up and selling
Dude, I made so many rocks in kindergarten like that. I don't even know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
facts. Actually, the mud milkshake is a good business. Yeah, yeah. From kindergarten, we can attest. But something like that. I don't know. Just like if an idea has worked for no one, if people keep failing at it, then you might not succeed unless, again, you have some sort of unique insight. Um,
Yeah.
the other thing is an idea that has worked exceptionally well for one company, i.e., like there is a Goliath in this industry. You don't want to be the David going against that unless, again, you are just built different in some way and you have extreme confidence that you'll be able to pull this off. But if I want to go compete with Google, start a big search engine, good luck, because these big companies that are existing have lots of power in this space. So you can try to go compete against Goliath, but it's going to be relatively difficult.
Yeah, you have to be
Um,
like something really special to like truly take down a big company,
yeah,
or to even be able to stand up next to them, right?
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, like to even be able to show your face.
starting the next like social media app, for example, if you want to build the next Instagram, that's where you have to look into these companies that already have an existing network. You're not going to get people to abandon the network unless there's a huge, reason to do so. Threads, which just launched in direct competition to Twitter, the reason they can do that is one, because it's coming from an already big company, Meta, who runs Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. The other reason is because people are frustrated with Twitter right now because, or X, I guess I should call it. I guess
X.
they're they're rebranding. Just again, self destruction by Elon. But yeah, so people were unhappy with Elon Musk's ownership of Twitter, and that gave Threads a little bit more of a fighting chance. But again, if you've seen, even with those two special advantages to go take on this Goliath, um, even with people being frustrated at Musk and Meta already being a huge company, Threads daily active user usage is in the floor right now. It started off on a huge high with like 100 million users joining. The app is essentially dead on
It's dead
arrival. It's
already.
dead within a week,
Yeah,
man. So even that should go to show that it's so difficult to take on these big existing places that have networks and things like that.
yeah. But I guess there's also like an example of like an underdog coming out on top would be like Be Real, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, sure.
that was made by just a group of, I think they were college students.
Yeah, but
And
again, I mean, they had a unique product. It wasn't
yeah,
exactly,
exactly. Yeah, it's true.
it wasn't too um it wasn't too similar to existing ideas. So they were different enough to where they could differentiate themselves. All right. Um, One thing that you should look at is my business idea in a good space? All right. Are we in a good idea space? So what does this mean? It means, is the general, even though my idea is like specific, solving a specific problem, is the broader like industry a good place to be in? Because if you don't already know, this is more for startups rather than small businesses. I guess small businesses could
Yeah.
fit in this area too, but it's mainly, yeah, you could fit a small business into this whole idea of being in a good idea space. But startups pivot. I hope everyone knows that. Like a lot of the startups today were not like that initially. So look at Airbnb. One of the most successful startups came out of Y Combinator. Their initial, their initial product, Air Bed and Breakfast, was literally a thing that would pop up every once in a while for conventions, and anyone who wanted to list their thing on Airbnb, Air Bed and Breakfast at the time, it wasn't abbreviated yet, would need to literally have an airbed. You cannot rent out it had to be an airbed. Like, so that
That's
was one of
funny.
the requirements. And then this would only pop up for conventions. They take down the site for that certain area when the convention was over. Since then, they've obviously pivoted, but they were in a good idea space where they could pivot to slightly different ideas. They were in the hospitality industry, I guess, or it's like
Yeah.
hospitality, but it's also like a marketplace. So, yeah, another example. I mean, like for just examples of idea spaces in general. I mean, there's like healthcare, there's fintech, there's like for social media and stuff. So like Be Real could pivot to a different social media app if they wanted to. Like social media apps like change their space all the time. Um, but yeah, being in a good idea space that you know well and that you can pivot around is a good place to be. Um, Maseo, any input? Sorry, I'm just going here.
No, no, I mean it makes sense. Like you don't want to go jump into a market that's just not going to work, right?
You don't want to be
I mean,
stranded if you need to pivot. Essentially, you want to have multiple.
yeah,
You
exactly.
want to have good places you can pivot to.
Yeah, you just need to be like versatile, right? And you need to be prepared for something to go wrong, and you need to have like your escape plan.
Yes.
And yeah, or else you just have no security. I mean, you could just fail and just fail, right?
Yeah.
That would suck.
All right. We have two more things in this finding an idea that's going to work area. One thing is that you should have founder market fit. You've heard of product market fit. What is founder market fit? Are you and your co-founders or whatever in a good place to be? Do you have a unique insight into this market? Are you a good fit for this market? So, an example of what bad founder market fit would be. It would be if me and Maseo wanted to go start a new company in the biomedical space. I don't know about you, Maseo. I took bio in like ninth grade. Besides that, I went on a biotech like field trip to make a video. I wasn't even in the class. Like we know nothing about that space.
Yeah,
We are
that's not
kids.
our area.
Again, we're not
Yeah,
like doctors or anything. We don't have degrees in bioengineering or anything like that.
yeah,
Not a good founder market fit. Um, what is good founder market fit? I'm going to use my own company as an example. So at Chimp Typhoon, we are a company, and all of our co-founders are high schoolers. We're 3 seniors and 2 juniors. The app that we are building, our target market is high schoolers. That is good founder market fit because we know the market well. We are in the market, you could say. We are going to know how to make a great product for high schoolers because we are high schoolers. Maseo, for your new business, you have great founder market fit.
yeah. Well, because I'm doing a car detailing business for luxury car owners and like car enthusiasts, which I would classify myself as both of those. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a pretty luxury car, and I also like cars. I mean, I'm just making a product for people like me, right? That's kind of like the only way to really make it like your passion is
And
to
your
make it
co-founder
something that you
too,
like.
right?
Yeah. And Brent as well, he has a nice car and he likes detailing cars. And he's, yeah.
I've known Maceo's co-founder for a while, and legit, like when we would like years ago when we would like were planning to hang out, he'd say, "Oh, I can't go yet. I have to clean my dad's car." Like one of his chores that he would do like every week would be he would like clean all the family's cars. Great
Yep.
person, great founder for a car detailing business. So look for founder market fit. You are going to succeed in markets that you know well because one, you're going to be good at building a product or service for that area, and you know what the target audience, the customer wants. Simple enough,
Yeah.
right? It should be like this should be relatively obvious to you. Um, Last thing is boring isn't bad. So boring ideas. I think some of the best businesses are boring businesses. For example, um, thinking about some of I think some of the best and also most profitable businesses are boring businesses. So I listened to this podcast, and one of the things they talked about was a business like a $30 million in revenue per year business that just sells egg cartons. Um,
Yeah.
if you're a business nerd, this is like gold. Okay. If you're not, you're like, what is this? But you can totally get interested in the day to day operations of a business like that. Something else like Intuit, one of the largest tech companies by revenue, I'm sure. Um, their whole business was initially started, or I guess one of their main products is TurboTax. It's literally tax filing. When you think of boring things, is tax filing not like the first, like doing taxes, not the first thing that comes up.
Yeah.
So building your whole startup around that. But obviously, um, the founders were able to find it interesting enough to build it into such a big company. So boring isn't necessarily bad. And another thing is boring keeps out people from wanting to start the business, which means less competition for you. All of the most interesting ideas, think like AI businesses now. Everyone wants to jump on that hype train, which means you have more competition. But the boring businesses, less competition and more room to succeed. Yeah.
Yeah. Cleaned it up there.
I wouldn't classify your business as a boring business, but it's definitely not the most exciting thing.
It's pretty boring. It's a pretty boring business.
Okay, I didn't want to like call you out too hard there,
No,
but
you can call
no,
it boring. I mean, like, you can make it exciting, but, like, at face value, you're literally washing a car,
yeah.
right?
So,
I mean,
so yeah, boring isn't bad. So that's the end of the main things we want to talk about, but we wanted to leave it with something for our OG audience. I mean, originally this podcast is called Teen Finance. We are teens. If we have people that are older than teens listening to us, that is fantastic.
awesome.
But assuming that a lot of people listening to this podcast are teens, we wanted to say that there's no better time to start a business, in our opinions, than when you are a teen. The reasons for this: you have a roof over your head that is not contingent on your business succeeding. So, the moment that you move out of your parents' house, if you want to start a business, the risk just goes up exponentially because you need to provide for yourself. When you're a teen, you can work as little or as much on your startup as you want, but hopefully you will stay housed. So, I just need to leave some nuance
Hopefully.
in there, bro. I don't know. Um, like, if you, I can work on this app, and if it doesn't succeed, the worst thing that happens is that I gained a lot of great experience, and I think that's something that's like just so valuable at this age. If your car detailing business goes bust, if all of a sudden if people just want dirty cars all of a sudden, and there's no demand for your service, then oh well, you got some valuable experience running a business, and you can still go to college after, so.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's huge. So the no risk is probably the biggest thing. um Another thing, lots of time, maybe. I say maybe
That's
because
true.
I don't know, high school gets busy.
Yeah.
um I can tell from experience with AP classes and stuff, it's going to get more difficult to run my startup as the school year goes through. But compared to like a working adult, you likely have a lot of time. And if you're not a super sweaty try hard in school, then you have more time. So yeah, you can actually execute on these ideas during like summer break. Also, even if you're working, unless you're working like, an actual 9 to 5, which one of our friends actually is, like, unless you're working like 40 hours a
Yeah,
week, even
that's
if
true.
you got plenty of time during summer break. So, yeah, you have time to build the business. And then the last thing, I was gonna say this is primarily for small businesses, but I think it can also be for startups. You get outside support from the adults in your community. So I can tell you from experience, when I was starting my media business, the amount of people that wanted to just like support me starting something like this was huge, and it's a great way to get your initial customer base. Maseo, I'm sure you're gonna get clients like that just in your neighborhood or something like that because there's a kid starting a business and they want to support, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's like my whole starting business model, to be honest.
Yeah.
My first round of marketing is literally just that.
Um, and with this outside support comes more forgiveness. When you are a teen,
Definitely.
people whenever you're selling a product or service, sure, you might need to charge a little bit less or whatever, but people are buying your product or service knowing that you aren't maybe as professional, which gives you more leeway to mess up, which is
Yeah.
when you're starting a business for the first time, this is like really good compared to if you're 25 starting a business. People automatically will expect a little bit more from you. So getting those wrinkles out, like getting all the things that you're just going to mess up in your early days of running a business, early when you're a teen, is good because people aren't going to be as harsh on you, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, if I was to go and maybe accidentally scratch someone's car, I bet my chance of forgiveness is like 90% higher to an adult.
Yeah.
I kind of believe that. I'm not gonna try. I'm not gonna test it here.
Don't. Carology does not scratch cars. For any people listening in
Never.
Santa Cruz County, Carology has never scratched a car. This is strictly a hypothetical.
Never. But in the situation, there would probably be some forgiveness.
Yeah. So that's it. That was the first episode of Building a Business 101. We'll see if we continue with that name. I don't know. If it's bad name, let us know, and we'll change this mini series to something else.
Yeah.
But
Tell us, please.
yeah, if you're a teen, go get out there. Wait for that idea to come to you, or don't. But I think starting a business is extremely rewarding, and you can learn so much from it. It makes you highly employable. The skills that you get from it, everything. So that's that. Everyone, mark your calendars for next week. We will be back. We hope you enjoyed this episode. All the new viewers, welcome again. Thanks for all the support. Say anything else you want to say?
No, see you guys next week.
Yeah. It may or may not be another one of these, but we have other stuff that we want to talk about. So yeah. Later. Peace out.
Bye.
Punch the
Yep.
camera.
No.